Hello everyone and welcome. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you guys making time out of your day to walk through our purchase request application today with Crow Canyon. My name is Ryan, this goofy looking gentleman down here in the left-hand corner. Um, so yeah, today we're going to cover our purchase request application top to bottom. Um, I see from the attendees list, a lot of you folks know us already, but just real quick, I'm going to give us a little overview of the application, Crow Canyon, and then I'll jump into the actual demonstration. So Crow Canyon started in 1999. We started as an application in the old Outlook folder system, and we've been developing on SharePoint since like '03, I believe, quite a bit of time now. And we have a series of out-of-the-box applications. Today, we're going to be highlighting the purchase request system. Now, we offer these on SharePoint Online 2013, 2016, 2019, as well as, SharePoint on-premise, as well as SharePoint Online, both in the classic and the modern UI. What's cool about what we do is we actually use our own set of tools to create and admin our applications. We call it the Nitro Studio. And real, long-winded way to say anything that you see in the application today is built and designed by Crow Canyon, meaning we can change it. So whenever we talk about out-of-the-box applications or templates for SharePoint or that are intended to be pointed towards any organization, out of the box, realistically, we're looking at 85 to 90% of the way there for your particular company. And what we want to do is take ownership of that last 10 to 15% to make it make sense for you. Now, some of us may be in a situation where it works directly out of the box from day one, and that's great. But the idea is that, whether it's during the initial deployment process or later on down the road, that the program can be flexible to work for whatever situation that you're in. So with that in mind, let's hop into the program here. So this is our purchase order system. Don't worry too much about the branding, the color scheme, like that's going to match your guys' internal requirements, right? We can make this make sense for you from a coloring perspective as well. Our landing page here, in my opinion, it's kind of like a projects dashboard. You have the ability to cycle through, your different lists, right? So if we're talking about SharePoint at its base here, we have two major lists that we work out of in this purchase order system, one being purchase requests, the other being purchase orders. Now those are linked and we'll get into that in more detail in a few minutes, but from this initial screen, it gives you the ability to look at each individual purchase request or purchase order as a project and with some basic information, right? What's the title? Who is the purchase agent, the department it's for, the cost, right? And then you can drill down and view the form from here and look at each individual purchase request as a project. Same with the purchase order. Now for each of our lists, we also have different dashboards that you can view these out of. So if our main screen is the project view, our dashboard system is a little bit more focused on this particular list. So in this case, purchase orders, we have something very similar to purchase requests. We have something very similar to purchase orders, and we'll be touching on that here in a minute. But it kind of gives you an idea of what we can do from a graphical interface as well as reporting, right? So you can see, where your POs or your PRs are in their particular status, whether they're pending submission, what department they're for in these reports interface. Now, real quick on these reports, since we're here, I'm going to touch on them briefly. We won't have too much time to dig into reports today, but while we're here, what you can do is you can export these reports out to PDF, Excel, PNG. You can print them, you can email them, and you can actually have these sent to a person at a date and time cadence of your choosing. So like if we export out this report here, this is what you would get in as an attachment in your email. So like, let's say I want to see all purchase orders or purchase requests by department the first Monday of every month at 9 a.m. Leveraging our workflow tool, you can have these reports be sent to that person at that date and time cadence of your choosing. So that's kind of, the different interfaces, these project views, these dashboard views, how you're going to be interacting with the tool. But let's talk and work our way through submitting a purchase request. So this is a good example of what we can do with our tool set. This is a Crow Canyon form, a Nitro Studio form. Those familiar with SharePoint maybe see a SharePoint list item displayed a little differently. That's the typical out-of-the-box SharePoint form. Ours are, like I said earlier, built and controlled by Canyon. So if anything on this form that needs to be changed, you want to capture more information, we have the ability to configure that. But it gives you an idea of the type of information that we can capture here, right? The purchase request, or, what type of request it is, what the priority is, has this been budgeted, the type of purchase, maybe the dollar amount, the department. Now, these are going to come into play when we talk about approvals, which we're going to have teed up here as soon as we work our way through the form. The reason for purchase, maybe new sales team, right? Some generic description, the purchase agent, let's say it's James in this case, and submitted for, let's say it's me. Now what we've done is we've created a link to another one of our lists. So a lot of our applications, whether it's purchase requests, our help desk, our work order systems, what we do is we try to link all of our lists together to make it to cut down on jumping from screen to screen, right? So when you open up a purchase request, you want to be able to add in multiple line items to that purchase request, right? It would be just too time consuming to have a single line item per purchase request. So what we've done is we've linked our purchase request to our purchase items list. And then you can come in here as an end user or a purchase request submitter, whoever it may be, and either select from a category, right? This is an entirely different list that we're looking up to, and you can make a category available to them, and they can save it as a line item, or they can write in their own, right? Because we see that happen, pretty frequently, where maybe it's off the category or off of your typical catalog, and they need to add something in specific to this particular purchase request. We also give that ability as well, and it keeps the total aggregate cost here at the bottom. Now they can add in attachments, maybe quotes, things like that. Whatever you require from an attachment perspective can be added, and then this submit for approval button here at the bottom. Now, when we submit for approval, we have a few things happen. It's going to let you know, it's going to let the submitter know that, hey, we got the green check arrows here, purchase request has been submitted for approval. So they know everything went through the way it was intended. Now the purchase request approvers, right? We're going to notify them via email that a new purchase request has been created, and they have a few different options. They can either approve it, they can send it back, or they can deny it. So each one of those options comes with their own little prompt, and they can work their way through those approval tasks either through our approval task list here or through email. So we do a lot of work through email here as well at Crow Canyon. We have something called lazy approvals. So the idea is that, if someone's on their phone or on the go and they see their, heck, maybe even they work from their phone more often than not, and they see a purchase request come through. And instead of coming into the SharePoint site, all they want to do is be able to open up their email and say, hey, this has been approved or this is denied for one reason or another. We do a lot of that work through email as well, and we can give you an idea of what that email looks like. Something along these lines, right? We can get more granular with these, but click here to approve or deny. You can put in some more details here as well, like the one we just worked up, approve, deny, or sent back, with some purchase details, the purchase items as well. So what we do is we put in an approval process around that approved column. So when they send this, the purchase request is going to be updated with any notes they add in the body of the email, who approved it, when they approved it, etc. The same goes for the deny and sent back here. So like I said, they can either come to the approver task list or update this via email. Now, how do we define these approvers? So we do that in the back end of the site through the application admin center here at this wrench. And this wrench is only going to be available to the folks who have access to it, right? We only want a certain number of people to come in and be able to change the back end of the application. So from the application admin center, you can change some of the lists, right? You want to add new purchase items. This is where you can do it. You want to add in new vendors. This is the interface where you're going to have that happen. You want to create or change your departments. Again, this is where that's going to be done. and also where we can define our approval levels. So when we talk about approval levels, you can see we have some mocked up here already. Just open all of these up. Basically, what you can do is you can have different levels, 1 through 3 as we've had set up here. You can base it on the approver on the type of purchase. You can base the approval on the amount, the department, or the due hours. So you have a lot of options and some flexibility here in terms of who can get the approval notification, when it fires to that person versus another person. So you got some flexibility in terms of who gets those approval tasks. And using this logic, we're only going to send one email, to the appropriate person as soon as that purchase request is generated. And if it has to go to multiple people, that's also an option as well. Now, I've even seen, the approval process set up on things like location, Active Directory managers. All of these are use cases that we've applied for some of our clients. So, I don't like to say, I don't make this guarantee that often, but in my opinion, we haven't run into an approval process that we haven't been able to put into place yet, whether it's level, type, amount, those other options that I've given you. There's a lot of flexibility with what we can do with our different approval levels. Okay. So purchase request is approved via email or through the task, right? It's gone through, any one of its levels of approvers, and now it's become a purchase order. And we can view it through our purchase orders dashboard here. And you can see we have the views here at the top: to be ordered, to be reconciled, open orders, some of our reports, as well as the same views, except in the actual list here at the bottom, right? To be ordered, to be reconciled, open orders, right? All the way down to all of our purchase orders. So let's open one of these guys up. This is one I put in earlier today prior to the webinar to show you what the approval process looks like once the purchase request is approved. I've come in and I signed this using our forms tool. We have an e-signature piece. So if you need to capture a wet signature, that's possible. So I've kind of some highlighting a few options here. So via email, by by capturing that wet signature, or by coming in and updating that approval task. So under our original purchase request details, it gives us a link back to that original purchase request. Going to sound a little bit like a broken record, but tying our list together, right? This is where we're going to try to tie everything back into one common interface. So this is our original purchase request we submitted. There's that purchase request line item, and here's the approval task. You can see that I approved this today at 10:39 a.m. with my comments, right? So this is what generated that purchase order. And we can always go back for auditing purposes to say, okay, hey, who approved it, when they approved it, what they said. You can do that either from the purchase order list or the purchase request list. Okay. So this first tab here is basically like a cover sheet, information mapped over from the purchase request. We're going to get into this a little bit more detail in a second, but finance department, check number, date paid, check voucher, right? Invoice number, check number, and then ship to. Who's getting this, this services on this particular purchase order, right? And this is going to come into play here in a minute. But let's focus back at this purchase order cover sheet. What we can do for each individual line item is come in and mark or update the line item independent of the purchase order. What I mean by that is we have something called custom actions. And what custom actions are, it's a piece of our Nitro Studio. Instead of our automated workflows, we've talked about some of those examples already, generating emails, creating list items, when a form is saved, right? Those are more manual workflows. Our custom actions are workflows that are fired off at a date and time of our choosing. So let's say we get, consulting services, right? Pretty frequently, very often as a company that does some consulting, not all of our hours are delivered at once, right? So let's say we come in and we delivered 5 of the 10 hours. So what we can do is we can update this particular line item and hit OK. And again, it's going to give the green, the green status arrow that everything went through appropriately. And what it's doing here, it's actually pretty cool. So we're checking, not only against the line item that we're in, but also against any other line items in the purchase order. So in this case, it's seeing that, okay, there's 10 hours on this particular purchase order. And we've marked off 5 as completed. So instead of fulfilling the purchase order itself, it's actually partially fulfilling the PO. Because yes, we've received, part of the hours, partially fulfilled it, right? But we haven't completely fulfilled this particular purchase order. And so now we can come back and see, okay, look, this has been partially received, right? The status is partially received, and each individual line item can reflect whatever status that it's in. But let's come back in here and update this to show 10, just for argument's sake today. Let's see, we received all 10. I didn't do that right. Sorry. Well, you can see that we have some fail safes in here for people like me who move too fast. So it's telling me that the received quantity value is 5, and I can't put in 10 because that was more than the quantity that was on the original purchase order. So it's basically saying, hey dummy, you already have 5 in here. I know you want to mark this as fulfilled, but you need to fill out 5 as opposed to the entire 10, so that when we come back in here, we can see when each individual hour was delivered. Now that purchase order has been filled, and the line item is going to update appropriately. Cool. Our status has been changed to received now on this particular instance. Update is received. Okay, so we've updated our line items. So now what we need to do is we need to come in here and update the PO status. So in this case, it's already changed to fulfilled for me. So it's noticed that the line item on this particular purchase order has been received. So we have, in this case, we fulfilled this purchase order. What's nice here is that it's taking a lot of the human element out of this. As you can see, I move very fast when I'm doing things. It's something I struggle from. Sorry, tongue-tied. Where I update a line item, but I forget to go in and I update the parent item in this case. So what we've done is we put in some fail safes to say, okay, hey, look, all of the line items have been received. This purchase order has been fulfilled, right? Now you don't have to have it work this way. This is the way that I like it, but the nice thing about our applications is that they are configurable. So in this case, the out of the box is, hey, this has been fulfilled. So let's make this reconciled. We've reconciled the purchase order. Everything's been sent. It all looks good. We're ready to make this happen. So what we do a lot, or what happens a lot, what's asked a lot about our purchase request system is the actual generation of the purchase order. And for those familiar with SharePoint, know that SharePoint printing is not the best. It's not something that you can rely upon to make it look the way you want it to look. So using our Nitro Studio again, I know coming back into play here with Nitro, but it underlies a lot of what we do. We can use our print feature, and I'm sure some of you have already picked it up at the top of the screen here. So before I open this up, what we're doing in this print tool is we give you a rich text print template, and we're mapping over certain columns from our SharePoint list item, in this case, our purchase order, and we're going to populate it into that template. So when I hit this print button, we've created this template with a header and a footer, and you can see that we have mapped over the line item, my signature, as well as that ship to information that we've built into that tab. So now if you want to email this purchase order out or print this purchase order or email it, if you have to physically pass it around, it's not something that you have to copy and paste or have a separate Word document independent from SharePoint. It gives you the ability to do it right again from one common interface. The idea is to move seamlessly from one to the other. So if we export this out to PDF, you can get an idea of what that would look like. And there you go. So just as a little recap, okay, purchase request is created. You can add in as many line items as you want. Once the line items department, whatever qualifying factors that you have for your purchase request are fulfilled, it goes to the approver. We can define different approval levels based on the purchase request type. Once it's approved by either the one person or multiple levels of approvers, purchase order is created. We can update the purchase order by line items, independent line items, or by the overall purchase order itself. And then we have the ability to view our different purchase orders based on the screen that we're in. to be ordered, reconciled, open orders, etc. We have all of the reports to coincide with it. Now, I want to be in the admin center. I've talked a lot about the Nitro Studio, right? It underlies a lot of what we do. So again, if you have proper access to the admin area, if you have admin level access to your purchase order site, and you want to come in and make a change to any of these templates, the Nitro Studio is where we're going to do that. And when I pull up this interface, it's going to make a lot more sense as to what I mean by this is where this lives. So this is our Nitro interface, and this is where we have access to our forms, to those automated workflows, those manually invoked workflows, that rich text print template, as well as our reporting and some of our dashboard views. So our tiles and dials dashboard links directly to the guy you see here at the top, our reports, right, etc. So if you want to come in and make any changes to this, you absolutely have the power to do so. We include training in the applications, or that come with the applications, that give you a walkthrough on Nitro Studio, kind of an overview of forms and workflows specific to your application. We do offer in-depth training on Nitro as well. So if you want to understand the entire process, that's also available. But just to kind of give you guys a peek under the covers, if we want to come in and change a form, we base all of our forms on the particular SharePoint list. So in this case, purchase requests, right? We have the linked PO form that we showed where the approval task was, as well as the purchase request submission. And this is going to look very familiar to what I pulled up when we were filling out that original purchase request, right? This is our forms interface. Now you can do some simple things like change the color scheme, right? Everyone wants to have their own color scheme for their forms, and I totally agree. So you can change the tab color, you can change the background color. Just find something not obnoxious. There we go. You can come in and you can create your own theme, specific to your organization. So all themes can fall under, your look and feel. You can pick your font family, your font color, your different tabs and section colors. Like, you can get very granular with how the forms look. You can be very specific. Now, if you want to come in and capture more information in its base form, these are just SharePoint columns, right? Let's say we don't want to put priority on here because everyone's going to mark it as critical. Well, we'll just remove it. Let's say we want to come in here and add something else. Under form controls, all of your columns in the SharePoint list are available here at the under form controls, and all you need to do is drag and drop. So let's say dollar amount, but maybe we work in multiple countries and we want to put the currency type in here as well. That's also possible. So again, our forms, our applications come out of the box the way I detailed today, but we do have the ability to come in, if you have proper permissions, to make changes to make it make sense for you. The same goes for all of the tools in Nitro Studio. The forms are the flagship, right? They get the most attention because that's what we interact with the most. But you have the ability to come in and make changes to anything that you want, all the way down to the print manager. And I can show you guys what that looks like real quick. So these are just rich text, like we were talking about. If you wanted to come in here and put in a header or a footer, or copy and paste, put in images, drag over, columns or information into the email, you absolutely have the ability to do so. So the idea here is with the training and with the tools, we want to make you as self-sufficient as possible. Now you can still rely on Crocanian to come in and help you get this set up. The installation, support, maintenance, upgrades, bug fixes is all included in our application cost. But if you want to, you really want to take ownership of it, like I said, there is some advanced trainings, or you can come in here and click around. And if you run into any issues, you can always ask us questions. So we're coming up at the bottom of the hour of our time here. So I just want to, these last few minutes, I want to see if anyone has any questions I can answer that are pretty specific to your organization or anything at all. So if we have any questions, go ahead and fire them in now. And if not, we'll wait a few minutes and we'll let you guys go. But like I said, any questions, feel free to shoot them over. So we just got a question in here about how does this all work on-prem? Any limitations? Right now, There are no limitations between our on-prem version and our Office 365 version. So everything you see is available in both Office 365 and on-prem. There's a few small tweaks in where some of the information is stored, but this isn't all documented. We have a complete user guide for our purchase order system. So for those interested, we'd be happy to send you the user guide after the webinar here so you can see how the application's laid out. But right now, no differences between on-prem and Office 365. Okay, great. We'll send out that user guide. Another question, do the purchase request attachments flow to the purchase order? Yes, absolutely. Anytime you add in an attachment to any of the forms, they will carry over to the purchase order, whether that's at the bottom of the form. And actually something that we can do is pretty cool. We can actually capture attachments on SharePoint columns using our forms tool, which I'll just kind of demonstrate real quick as I'm talking about it. But the idea is, yes, you can capture attachments here at the bottom, the one we have pre-built, or you can capture attachments in a SharePoint column as well. So we have this ability to convert our column type to an attachment column, and it can actually be saved against that particular SharePoint column. Okay, can you attach documents to the purchase order that can be emailed with the purchase order? Yes, absolutely. This has come up recently with a few other of our other customers. Gosh, one of our nonprofits, I think, asked the same question. So being able to print or email attachments with the purchase order. Yes, I know it was in development in January. I haven't checked up on it in the last couple of weeks, but I haven't tested it, I should say. Our dev team let us know that it is ready to roll. So any attachments on the SharePoint list item can be included in the email, as well as the actual physical purchase order from that print tool. So yes, absolutely. What other questions? How does this tie to an accounts payable system? It's a great question. We get this question a lot. And for those who are on Office 365 or on-prem, well, really it goes both ways. I'm not going to go into this right now. What we've done, depending on your accounts payable system, your AP system, like we get a lot of people asking about being able to update or populate like maybe invoice number, or cutting down on duplicate data entry between the finance department. So what we've done is we've created our own very robust REST API system, as well as supporting external data columns within SharePoint. So the idea is that you can theoretically build any connection to third-party tools that can push and pull data from your SharePoint to that third-party application. We've done this for a few different customers. Our REST API support, our REST API features came around in January, or really December, when Microsoft raised the price of Power Automate. We needed to find a way to circumvent that, because all of those connectors are premium connectors which come with a raised price. So that REST API functionality feature set is included in Nitro. It's included in our applications. So if you want to reach out and connect with a third-party AP tool, absolutely, reach out to us independently, let us know, and we'd be happy to help you put that in place. And I do have documentation on our REST API system as well, if anyone is interested. It's pretty developer heavy, to be honest. I get lost sometimes in there, but I trust the guys, and we've tested it a few times to some good success. All right, we have one other question here. It's a good question, and this is something I talk about a lot. And this is talking about purchase orders being tied to our contracts application. So we offer a few different out-of-the-box applications with Crow Canyon, and these applications can all be tied together. So we have purchasing, we have contract management, asset tracking, user onboarding, or onboarding user access. The idea here is that these are all SharePoint based and they can all be tied together. So purchasing and contracts, absolutely. Purchasing and assets, absolutely. Let's say you purchase an asset, a set of laptops, and instead of having to manually enter those assets into the asset tracking system from the purchase request system, what we can do is we can build in a workflow to automatically create those assets once the purchase request has been marked as fulfilled or reconciled. So yes, the question is, can this be tied to our contract system? Absolutely. So not only, other third-party applications outside of SharePoint or Office 365, but also Crocanian applications. The idea here, it's a topic I talk about a lot, is being able to use or leverage SharePoint as your platform of choice, right? So you guys are paying for SharePoint, whether it's 365 or on-prem. You might as well take advantage of it. So if you're storing information on the third-party tools, instead of having that duplicate data entry, use SharePoint as the interface, or go the opposite route and build a lot of your business processes on SharePoint and have all those applications be able to speak to each other. Cost, we have the cost of our applications on our website. I think it's Crow Canyon Plans and Pricing, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, let me look. But our pricing is available on our website. We do offer, some non-profit pricing, things like that. If you're interested, you can shoot me an email and I'd be happy to talk over pricing with you. Yeah, plans and pricing. This guy right here. If you're interested, I'd be happy to talk over pricing, your particular requirements or your particular use case. We can be flexible. So you can either send it to me, which is my first name dot my last name at crowcanyon.com, ryan.stefani@crowcanyon, or you can send it to sales. They both come to me. So yeah, either way, you can get it off the website or come to me directly. Like I said, I'd be happy to discuss in more detail. What other questions? Cool. Well, guys, for those of you who asked for additional documentation, whether it's a user guide or pricing or connections to our applications, I'll reach out to you independently and talk a little, give you a little bit more detail on how that happens. Just a heads up, we do have some workshops coming up for those of you who are existing customers or are just interested in Nitro Studio. We have a webinar next week where James Restivo is going to cover our generate document and our custom actions. So that manually invoked workflow tool that I talked about, you can actually create Word documents from SharePoint list items, and it's going to cover our print tool in more details, actually go into the nitty gritty there. So if you're interested, feel free to sign up for that one. It's a good, Nitro training option. And then Scott Restivo is going to do a full in-depth workup of our forms and workflow tool on March 5th. So our applications are definitely our flagship, right? But the Nitro Studio is heavily involved in what we do. So if you're interested in the, kind of the ins and outs, the underbelly of our applications, definitely sign up for these 2 webinars. There's going to be some good information there. And we will absolutely send the recording out after the meeting today. So again, thanks for joining, everybody. Appreciate your time. If you have any questions, sales at Crow Canyon, and if not, we'll reach out to you independently and get some of these questions answered in more detail. Thanks again. We'll talk to you guys soon. Appreciate it.